25 followers. This time we have 1,025 followers. We're with Charbroil. I do Twitter chats about barbecue about once a month where I talk to hundreds of folks all over the country. And we exchange ideals and all that. I want to get a selfie real quick so it can go on Charbroil's website and have all you folks in it. We'll break the internet here real. Or maybe I will. Say barbecue. All right. Perfect.
No, you stay right here.
What we're going to start with today is the ribs. For folks that were here last year, and I know there's a few of them, it all changed from what I did last year. I used the bag wood. I had about 10 different seasonings. By the time I was done doing 10 racks of ribs, my arms were wore out with all the seasonings. Shake, shake, shake. I developed my own rub. This is all we use in competition. I use it for the pork, I use it for the chicken, and it really works out well. It's got chili powders, paprikas, sugars, garlic, and a few other things in there, secret ingredients. All your chicken is secret ingredients. Well, we'll start with first with the ribs. Our ribs here, they have that membrane on there. I like to take all that off and have that off there. A lot of places will use that and leave it on there, and that's the part where you get that papery taste at the bottom of your ribs. I take that off immediately. Then I rub my ribs, and I like to, if I got time, I like to let them marinate for quite a while. When I do competitions, a lot of time I'm showing up in a town, I'm breaking my stuff out and getting to business right away, because I only typically have 5 hours to produce ribs and get them to the judges. And if I'm a minute late, I'm disqualified. So there's no margin for error when we're doing this. It's KCBS tournaments that we do, Kansas City Barbecue, and that's it. The judges are very professional. They know what they're doing, and they tweak every little, they want, within 45 seconds, they want your entire flavor profile. They want to taste that sweet, they want to taste the tenderness, and they want that heat. Because in 45 seconds, they're washing their mouth out and eating a cracker and moving on to the next one. So if they don't get it all, then you're just out. So I've tried to develop that. When I do my ribs, I give them that rub, and you can be liberal with it. And I do the front and the back. And like I said, I like to leave them all set for a while, let that rub kind of get in there. I'll take them off, put them on the smoker, let them typically go for a good 2 hours. I was doing about an hour and a half. I've upped that. I just found that to get that smoke in there, and I try not to have it at an extreme temperature, but I'm not doing the low and slow method either. It doesn't take 14 hours to make good ribs. It only takes 4. And I've worked on that hard. You get up there 350 degrees, let it smoke, but I keep everything over to the side. I'll keep my wood going in here, let that smoke go. There's no direct cooking going on at all. After I get them smoked for about 2 hours, I take the ribs and then I get into the candy process. And this not only gives a sweet flavor to the ribs, it also gets that tenderness going. Because you got your smoking process, through that is where this comes in. Every 15 minutes, this is the apple juice, the apple cider vinegar, some sugar, and the stone-grown apple wine. And I only use the apple wine here. I was just playing around. I always used apple cider juice, or apple cider vinegar, and the apple juice. I tried the apple wine one time. I was playing around, and it just brought out a sweetness to it. And in the stone grown apple wine, if you've tried it, and all you got to try that tonight, that sweet twang to it. It really works good with the ribs. So I take that, put it in the fancy garden sprayer, and spritz those ribs through the smoking process. That keeps them nice and tender and not dried out like beef jerky. Then I'll take my ribs. I get my brown sugar. Put a fine bit of that down. Here's the secret ingredient right here. RK. Then I take honey. Then I go back, because during the spritzing process, I'm knocking my rub off. So I go back and re-season. That's another thing new that I started doing. And it really made a difference. I can actually taste my rub again. Then I repeat the process on top. More parquet. More honey. Yeah. There we
Say
go.
what?
I dash it with a little more seasoning on top. And then I take and I spritz a little, because it adds that moisture right off the bat, and it starts breaking that brown sugar down. Wrap the ribs all up. And back on the smoker, they will go for another hour to an hour and 15 minutes. Once that's done, I'll take the ribs back off and then start saucing them. But I found a little trick out. I used to take them out of the brown sugar, out of the wrap. Now I just take the rib off, and instead of pulling the whole rib out, throwing it on there, all the juices are just running into the grill now. I've lost all that juice. So I just fold my stuff up to keep all the juices once it's broke down in there, and then I start saucing. And then I put it back on and leave it for another hour and a half or so. And you keep saucing about another hour. And then I'll break it out every 15 minutes, I'll sauce again. And then I'll sauce again. You wait until it's all good and done. How I like to tell is I just pick up the rib, and if it's popping in half, I know we're there. And that's exactly how we do our ribs. The difference from the bag wood to cutting my own wood to making the seasoning, the rub, all that stuff really made a difference in the competitions for us, because we took it from 14th place the first time we went to 3 weeks ago winning first place in ribs, 4th place in chicken, and grand champion. And you can see my shiny trophy down here on the ground. They only the best in Brimfield. The next thing I'd like to show you folks is the chicken process. In a competition, these are already smoked, but in a competition, I use a muffin pan. And I take my chicken, obviously, I'll take the chicken, I put it down, and I have butter, and I have the seasoning in there, and I leave it for the first hour, and just let it go. After an hour, I take it, I flip it up, keep it in the muffin pan. That way it shapes it into a nice little round piece of chicken, and that's what a judge is looking for. They're trying to, everything is organized, in place, and looks like it should be the same piece of chicken on everyone. After I put them in the muffin pans, let them do their thing, I'll break them out right at the end, and I usually, in Brimfield, I use this. I open it up, I had it going about 450 degrees, I put them on there, and then start saucing them. The reason being is, I was getting into the final minutes of competition are hectic. You want to make sure every single thing is perfect, and the chicken was not getting that crispiness on the outside that I was looking for. So putting it on there really kicked it up. Got that heat back, you know, because once you have your fire at 250 to 300 degrees when you're doing this, to turn around and try and get that built back up to 450 to 500 degrees takes quite a bit of time. So I just brought it back up. And this charbroil right here, this is the last event I do since it won the Grand Championship, and this was the first one I used here last year. So it's going to go to pasture like American Pharoah because it's done its job. And live in barbecue glory. Might even get a new paint job and all that. And I'm going to go buy its brother. So I will have the identical grill of that. But that grill right there, compared to guys that I was competing against, that takes 10 bags of charcoal to light their grill. And then by the time, you know, they're into the competition, when we showed up in Brimfield, I literally pull in there. Everybody has already got their tents set up. Smokers are rolling. Meat is on. And these guys had blower fans and 20 bags of charcoal laying around. I'm like, what in the heck is going on? I used a quarter bag of Kingsford, and that was it. The rest of it I used the wood. After I get that charcoal going, I just add this wood. And that right there does it all. It burns good. The apple wood does. It burns at a high heat too. So it maintains. I can throw a whole log on there and that thing will burn for hours. It's just a perfect way to do it. But the guys that are doing the 14 hours in that with the smoking, and then they get ready to serve, and we sample ribs from other competitors, and their meat's not done. Because you're cooking for 6 judges, not 60 people. So you don't need that kind of equipment to do that. And we proved them in Brimfield that, you know what, the backyard guy, you can go out there and you can do it with the 150 charbroil grill and still make the best in the state of Illinois. And we're looking forward to a lot more competitions, and we're bringing the heat everywhere we go this year. The Kettleman, that's an awesome grill. Charbroil sent me that to test out, and I use steaks, salmon, brats, kielbasa and peppers, you name it, you can do it on that grill. The Smoke Hollow, this is actually the first time I've ever used it. My wife bought it for me 2 months ago, and I said, you know what, I'm going to just fire that up today. And I called her after I fired it up and told her, hey, it works. We're good to go. This here is called the Big Easy. I did it wasn't a competition. It's an event I do at the Wapsie in Iowa for a group of people, and they presented that to us at the end of the cooking and the food. I cook for them for 3 days. I stay up there. They have a convention going on. It's a 16-hour day. I cook breakfast, lunch, dinner. As soon as you're done with breakfast, you're rolling on to lunch, you're rolling on to dinner. There's no stopping. This guy went with me over here. He was pretty wore out by the end of the day. He's a lot younger than I am, so but this thing right here, there's no guessing. I did beer can chicken in this. It's got a thing, you put your beer can holder in there, your chicken in there. There's a temperature gauge. You shove it in the chicken, shut it down. It's electric, but you can still smoke. You put your wood chips, or I'll break off bark off my apple wood or twigs and put it in there. Smokes for hours. No guessing, because once your temperature reaches 165 in that chicken, an alarm goes off and it tells you you're done. Yeah,
That's pretty nice.
That's why they call it the Big Easy.
I need that.
So I hope everyone enjoyed everything, all the food. I hope I was able to teach you a little bit about what Team Apple Smoke does, and I'm very honored to be back here. Proud that all you folks come out and see us today. And at the end of the day, my nieces over here are selling Team Apple Smoke t-shirts. That helps pay for us to go to competitions, because the barbecue competition world is not cheap. We spend hundreds of dollars to go compete all over the place. And t-shirts are one of our biggest helpers of that. Once again, I thank every one of you for coming out here, and I really appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Do you only use thighs and dark meat when you do competition, and why not white meat?
the reason is thighs is more that in competition. That's what everyone is because people will break out different stuff. There are people that do lollipop chicken, where they take the legs, they cut, and just have the bone showing. So then, you know, they get the clean bone, then they dunk that into their sauce, let it sit. It just, legs are a hard thing to do. If you mess them up, and trying to get them in there, and a lot of judges, the thigh meat is just a good piece of meat to use. I only use bone in, and it just cooks well, and it holds up well. You know, when I turn it in a box or whatever, you got so much time to get that in there. You're trying to keep the heat going. You're trying to keep, and the bone in versus boneless. It doesn't work in the competition because it's going to dry that meat out too quick, especially in the smoking process. So that's one reason I use the thighs. And 99% of the guys that are on the circuit, that's what they use. And I switched last year here. I used baby backs. The first year and a half of competition, I used baby back ribs. I was getting up there. I placed top 5 in the state championships last year in Arthur, Illinois, Amish country. But it just wasn't presentable the way it should be. The baby back has that ridge to it. When you go putting them in a box, you can get about 6 in there. And what I did was, and my wife kind of gave me crap about this in Brimfield, but in Arthur, Illinois, I put 12 bones in a box. You only have to have 6. But I watched another pitmaster, he's actually the Kingsford champion from Pellet Empty Barbecue, Rod Gray. And he put 12 bones in his box. Because what that shows the judges, you're confident in every bone you put in that box. You know, and it looks better. And they're saying, okay, this guy, he didn't have to just dig through 6 bones. He's throwing everything he's got in there. Chicken, I was going to do something a little different. I did do legs in Brimfield, but I decided not to put that in my box at the end. But I tried to fit 9 thighs in there. And with putting them in that muffin pan, it really gives me a little more range because they're all nice little balls. Mm-hmm. So it looks real pretty in the box. Get you some muffins. Yes.
There's a limit. Of course, all I see is on TV, you know, and of course it's 15 seconds, you know, that shoot out.
Right.
How long do you really have the minute you get to that place to present your food before the judge?
You actually, you can show up on a Friday night, and some pitmasters will. We have a deadline of, I think, Brimfield, and they're all different, but it was a 1 o'clock turn-in for ribs, 1:30 for chicken. So you're boom, boom, boom. First thing we're throwing on is ribs, and the last thing we're throwing on is chicken, obviously. But you have that window too. So if I'm 1 minute late getting there, and I may have to walk from here all the way down to the end of the vineyard here to get to a place. If I'm 1 minute late, you're instantly disqualified, and you might as well just pack it up and go home. Yeah. But some people take, I know pitmasters that take 14 hours to do their ribs, and I mean it's on there all night long, and the one reason is because they're using these pits that take 10 bags of charcoal, a whole quart of wood to keep that thing rolling through the process, and they're trying to cook for 6 judges, and you really don't need that, and